Hi, thank you for your question. Yes, my son has been in many trials for AAC devices. They honestly never really clicked like completely with him. We've tried different programs, different trainings and stuff. And he mainly now just uses one in school, really for like making choices and stuff, I believe. But at home, he finds ways to communicate. Trust me. And sometimes, a lot of the time, it is with technology. But here's a few funny examples I actually found. So this is before he was like verbal really at all, I believe, and they were really pushing the PEC system with him. And so he got an AAC device, and he says, "I need money. Can you ask?" Or when he handed me my phone and said, "I offer you a misleading compliment." Or the time my friends never let me live down, where he demanded that I call him Olathar. A better name's Olathar. He decided he was no longer Roman, he was Olathar. Or when he found it extremely important to communicate with me that I was fat on the dresser. Okay, but this one's cute. So yeah, at home, honestly, Roman doesn't really use an AAC device because, he really talks a lot. And when he doesn't talk, he could always just type to me, which is kind of essentially using a communication device. But we have tried, all the different programs. Like, I've paid for them, Eli's paid for them, the school's paid for them, insurance has paid for them, and nothing has ever worked swimmingly. But he still utilizes it at school and in settings where it can kind of provide more structure and help him make choices. But he doesn't really need it at home. But thank you for your question. Hi, so yes, my son, he was actually nonverbal. He's autistic. He was nonverbal till about 5, but really he didn't start talking till kind of recently. So honestly, he could have called me anything and I would have been a-okay. He could have called me a straight up shithead and I would have called the choir, you know what I mean? But he calls me mom simply because since he was young, everybody else called me his mom, so he just kind of picked up on it. That's what he chose, and it's okay. It is awkward in some situations, like say in the men's room, stuff like that. Obviously it can be a little awkward. He'll be talking, calling me mom. I'll just be like, shh, your mom's out there, just wait. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not really kidding, but I just make do, and I would never make him change it because it's what he's comfortable with, and I feel like I'm the adult. I can just be okay with it. So yeah. There were a lot of instances before my son was diagnosed as autistic, where I would go hang out with friends and I'd see their kids, and they were reaching milestones that my son hadn't even been close to yet, and I'd get so concerned because it just felt like he was so behind. But this comment made me realize that maybe it's not my son who was behind. Maybe it was neurotypical kids who were behind. Sure, there's a plethora of areas in which my son was probably ahead and then behind and on schedule, and that's what it's like for every kid, even neurotypical kids. But this really put things into perspective for me. Because my child was absolutely spelling at 3 years old. Not only was he spelling, he was writing sentences and communicating. When he was about 2.5, 3, that's when he started his first trial for his AAC device. And at the facility where he had this trial, it was not uncommon to see other autistic, 3-year-olds, on AAC devices communicating in full sentences. I remember when my son was really little, really, really young, like a toddler. One of my main concerns was that he just really didn't have an interest in other kids at the time. He just didn't want to be bothered. He wanted to do his own thing. Maybe he was ahead of the game. Maybe he didn't want to be bothered. I remember my son used to always take produce we brought home, oranges and stuff, and he'd actually, we called it taking it to his lab, because he'd go and dissect them. Now this is when he was probably probably about 3 years old. That was his idea of fun. Actually, let me share some pictures with you. I wanted to show a picture of him with his real scientific telescope he's had forever, but I can't find the picture, so here is him with the magnifying glass examining a toy. This is him reading the newspaper on his way to preschool. In fact, he loved science so much at a young age that he was Bill Nye. You know, a lot of the time when I like tell people that my son is autistic, the reaction is, oh, like they do the teeth sucking thing, like, oh, like, damn it. But I think I should start doing that back to them, because obviously their kids are neurotypical, and I should do the whole, oh, like, that sucks for you. Because apparently, to people who are only around neurotypical kids, raising neurotypical kids, reading and spelling at 3 is shocking and impossible. But in the network of support that I've acquired, like with other parents of autistic kids, this isn't abnormal at all. Okay, I was low-key hoping somebody would say this. I knew that they would, because my kid, when he was, like, really, really little, he was a fucking beast. He was gigantic. So first, let's just start off the rip. You know, when I had my kid, he was a month premature, and he was almost 7 pounds. My son was born in 2013. This is him at 3 years old. This is my kid he's so tall, that's him at 3 years old. I graduated from college in 2015. This is at my graduation. My son was 2 here. 2. And I just want to point out that he was, like, not even close. Not even freaking close to being, like, 3 yet. Because this was in May. I graduated in May of 2015. This is irrelevant. It's just such a cute picture. Once again, my graduation day, he was only 2 years old. I mean, look at him. He looks like you just came to him to talk to him on the day of his daughter's wedding. Now, in my opinion, this is what, like, an average, like, what, 2.5, 2-year-old would look like. He was 8 months here. 8 months. This is him and I when my friend took our pictures at the mall. He was 8 months old. 8-month-old pictures. Not to gas myself up or anything, but, yeah, he gets it from my side of the family. My dad was 10 pounds. 10 pounds when he was born, okay? I didn't get blessed with that luxury. I'm biologically female. Listen, I know you're gonna be like, oh my god, you just admitted you're female. I don't care. I'm biologically female. I'm not that tall. The men in my family are beasts. I'm so glad that my son inherited it. I honestly am. My son uploaded a selfie once and he meant to write sharing, like sharing a photo. He was only like 2.5, 3 when he did it. And he accidentally wrote sharding and shared it to my Snapchat. So I guess my son's new thing is, like, aggressively asking people their names aggressively. Not just saying, like, hey, what's your name? You know what I mean? A friendly, welcoming gesture. Aggressively asking what their name is. You know what I mean? And by the way, if you follow me and you see this, and that was you who my son went up to, I'm so sorry. But I was taking him into speech therapy, and, like, he went up to this little kid, and he's like, and your name is... And I'm like, okay. And I was just, like, moving him along. And then he asked the mother, he said, and your name is... Oh, my God. I'm like, I'm so sorry. He likes to know everybody's name. I'm sorry. And I, like, ushered him into, like, the building. But it's so aggressive. It's like, and your name is... Like, he's a drill sergeant. Like, why not just say, hello? You guys, I just have to show you the cute little drawing that Eli put on Roman's mirror schedule for today. So he drew a little, well, it's supposed to be like a dumpling. It does kind of look like one, the little squishy dumplings he likes. And then it says, have a squishy day with a smiley face. I just thought that was so cute, so I had to share it with you guys. Oh, how the tables turn. My son yesterday, he couldn't get the door open because sometimes, like, in the humidity it swells. He was having a hard time getting it undone. And he looks at me and he says, I need your muscles. My muscles, I said? I thought I had hot dog arms. He didn't say anything to that. I don't like ABA. Whenever I do videos on how I do not condone ABA, it does follow with some harassment from BCBAs themselves, and also neurotypical parents who have kids who are autistic. But not once have I ever been told by an autistic person to stop speaking out about it. Never, not once. And I think that speaks volumes. You can find tons of literature online as to how like ABA is traumatizing, it can be abusive, even modern day ABA. It's not like it's just like it was back then. Modern day tactics. My son was in ABA for a very long time. When my son was first diagnosed, we had, I believe it was a BCBA and a case manager come to our house and talk to us about ABA. My son's father and I wanted to discuss it first and look at other options just to see what was out there. And they told us, well, you can do that if you want, but we will have to put a report in for medical neglect. Later, I found out that this is completely untrue and unfounded. I mean, they could report medical neglect all they want, but it's not a legal issue for a kid to be an ABA. They don't need to be an ABA, at least in my state anyways. I started noticing red flags early on, and I really wish that I took them more seriously. For instance, they would reward my son with basic needs such as food and drink, which means that they had to withhold it from him, because in order to reward somebody for doing something you're like, ecstatic about, you had to withhold it at some point. Not okay. And you will see a large number of parents and ABA therapists and BCBAs on here who say, well, my practice isn't like that. Not everybody's like that. My son has had about 4 different BCBAs. He has had, oh my gosh, I couldn't even tell you, probably like 15 to 20 ABA therapists. Not to mention, I mean, he's had ABA in public school. The model that ABA is built on is ableist and it's traumatizing, and that's the issue. Another issue is insurance companies, because a lot of parents, they have no option. ABA is the only treatment method that's going to get covered. Obviously, this isn't the case in every scenario, but in a lot of scenarios, insurance companies only recognize ABA as like an adequate form of treatment for autism. And it's hard because as much as I think ABA is not a good road to go down, I also don't think it should be recommended to have no support at all. My son still has interventions. He has OT, PT, speech outside of school and in school. He has feeding therapy, sometimes functional support. My advice would be to look at all options. But when it comes to ABA, it's a no from me. I have so many more stories, but that's it for now. No, my family has a farm, and if my kid doesn't want to go outside and be with the animals and do farm chores, guess what? He don't gotta go outside. If he wants to sit inside and participate in a hobby like coding on his computer, he can absolutely do that, and I'm not going to shame him for it. I love being outside. I love working on the farm with my husband. That's something I enjoy. My son, not so much. He doesn't like getting dirty, and you know what? That's absolutely okay. You all act like when we were growing up, we did such fantastic shit outside, honestly. I used to sit on the porch and whittle sticks, find old cigarettes to smoke, and probably almost die on like a quarterly basis doing stupid shit. None of that turned into a career. But coding can. Why would I not foster that? Why would I not foster a productive hobby? Because it's on a computer and boomers don't like it? That's a shame. Too bad. Listen, to all y'all that's been gassing my kid up, right? Oh, you're so tall. You're getting so tall. You're almost as tall as your mom. You're getting so... Stop it. Stop. This entire morning, I dealt with being called Frodo, okay? Frodo. And I've never personally seen Lord of the Rings, but I'm told that Frodo is a little man. That's enough of that. At least it's a guy, I guess. Alright, you guys, one, you're gonna have to ignore my nose situation. I got seasonal allergies, and also you're gonna hear SpongeBob in the background. My kid left his DVD player on, so that's just what we're left with throughout this video. So I figured now that I can do 10-minute videos now, I might as well do one, addressing common questions I get, because they're coming in like wildfire again. Alright, so to avoid repetitive questions, I don't want my, faithful viewers to get, kind of tired and worn out of the same content, answering the same stuff over and over, so I figured I'd just address it here like I have before. First common question: does your son call you mom or dad? My son calls me mom. It's not because he remembers me pre-transition or anything. My son was actually nonverbal for quite a while. He calls me mom because his dad knew me as his mom, my family knew me as his mom, and he just picked up on it because they referred to me as his mom. It's not something that I'm hell-bent on changing. I really, I feel like in the situation, he's a kid, I'm an adult, I can deal with it. Is it always ideal? No. I just, I think certain things in life are not worth throwing a fit over, and for me, that's one of them. I would never have him call me dad. I would never feel comfortable with that because he had an active father. He passed away. So, you know, I would never want to take on that role, or it's just a boundary I don't want to cross. Which brings me to my next question. Is Eli your son's father? No, Eli is my husband now. Eli is also a trans man. I met him post-transition. I met him like as I am now. He didn't know me before I transitioned, so that's a 411 on that. Which I hope, you know, common sense wise, that answers, how did your husband react to your transition? I mean, I've been like this. Like, this is how he knows me. Like, another common question. Do you work? I hate this question because, for one, yes, I've had the same position for 8 years, but I hate this question because you're saying it to be degrading. You see my family on social media. I post a lot of content till I'm exhausted, just so that people that follow me have something to watch. I know my content really brightens people's days. Like, a lot of people have literally reached out to me, I would say on a weekly basis, telling me that my content keeps them going. So that's why I put so much effort into it, and because of that, I get questions like, do you even work? Yes. First of all, my family are farmers and we make money through monetization, obviously. Second, I have been an HVAC consultant for a very long time. I've had my own business for 8 years where I do, like I said, consulting, data entry, stuff like that. I wouldn't really consider myself a consultant. However, the IRS does, and when the IRS considers you something, you go with it. Recently, I tried to just do social media primarily because, honestly, I make more a lot of the time, but I got bored, so recently I actually started doing my old job again. Next common question, why did you transition just to date a man? I literally can't even envision another person more perfect to be my soulmate than another trans man who experiences dysphoria. The connection I have with my husband is one that I could never have with a cis person. No offense to any previous partners or anything. It's just, I've never felt as solid as, you know, a connection. And of course, it's not just because, you know, we both deal with similar issues, but knowing that somebody can relate to issues that have affected your core it's very hard to find, and I'm lucky to have found. And I would not have found that in a cis man, and I would not have found that in a cis woman. Next common question, are you on testosterone? No, I'm not on testosterone. I was for years, and it affected my liver, so I had to go off. I started to go into liver failure. I haven't really had enough of a desire to go back on so much that I would risk my health. I don't foresee that happening unless somehow there was no risk, and unfortunately I don't see that happening. So yeah, probably not gonna happen. Another common question I get asked is, are you afraid of any negative impact that your transition might have on your son? No. It might sound crass, but no. And that's not because I don't care about my son's well-being, my son's viewpoints, my son's experiences. It's because it's not that big of a deal. It's just not. I mean, I would be naive to sit here and say, like, oh, he's never, ever in his life going to be affected at all that his parent transitioned. I mean, of course, that's not true. However, it is very small in the scheme of things. Every family, every parent, every caregiver has something about them that is not, like, ideal or the traditional experience. And as long as the child is cared for, as long as you are compassionate, safe, reliable, everything else is irrelevant. My community knows me. They know my son. They protect him. I'm very grateful. I am very lucky. Yeah, no, I'm not worried. Another common question I get, why don't you cut your son's hair? Because it's on his head. It's on his head, and it's not a decision that's so intense that I need to take over and take away his right to choose over it. It's hair. It doesn't affect his ability to learn, to have fun, to be a kid. If he doesn't want his hair cut, I'm not going to force him to do so. Especially not for, like, acceptance on TikTok. That's fucking corny. That could never be me. Could never be me. Another question I get asked, did you have bottom surgery? No, I only had top surgery. I probably will never get bottom surgery. I have HSV2, which means that I have genital herpes. I do a lot of videos, like, you know, educating others on it because I think it's important to, you know, minimize the stigma, and to just heighten the, you know, rates of protection, use of protection, and hopefully lower the cases. But I don't think personally for me it would be a good idea. I did speak with somebody like, a medical professional about it, and the infection rate is higher. It's not something that I would risk to that level. It's just not something I'm willing to risk my life on, to that extent. And whether people think that's dramatic or not, I mean, infections are infections, and I'd rather not even risk it. Another question, are your parents supportive of your transition? Yes, both of my parents are accepting. My father is actually Irish Catholic, and, even though he doesn't always understand it, he's always been supportive. I remember when I woke up from top surgery, he was the first person I saw, and I remember when someone from his old apartment came up to him and they asked, if you don't mind, I'm just wondering, is your kid transitioning? And they weren't, like, saying it in, like, a negative way, and my father was like, yeah, I don't really get this whole transgendering thing, but my kid's happy, and that makes me happy. And, I just thought that was so cute. Another question I get asked a lot is, does your son know you're transgender? Yes, my son does know that I'm transgender. I did come out to him when I first started transitioning. I don't know how much he remembers of that, but his response was, cool, I want pizza. I'm assuming he either didn't remember it or didn't really, really hold it to a top priority conversation, because after that, it seemed like he didn't really know that I was transgender for a while. But then one day I saw him watching YouTube and they said something negative about trans people, and I knew he knew because he immediately exited out. So I knew he knew that I was trans. I think people expect me to have a story where he reacted in a horrified way, and it never happened. It's not going to happen. It almost never happens. I've never heard of that happening. So yeah, I don't know, I hate to tell people that are betting on the downfall, but we're still a good family. We're still happy. He still loves me, and we're still close as ever. All right, I hope that answers some of the common questions I get. Do I think that transitioning changed my parenting style? Overall, no, but it did change it in two areas. And before I get into that, I want to talk about passing as a trans person and not passing, because right now, as you see me now, I am non-passing. I shave my facial hair, shave my head. I don't fill my facial hair in and stuff because at this moment, I don't feel it's necessary. But hold on. This is me when I grow out my facial hair and fill it in. Thinking about doing it again. Summer's coming. I gotta be shirtless. Might be a necessity again. Or maybe I just want to be hot. That's pretty hot. I'm hot. Okay, I just wanted to show you that so you can keep in mind that when I grow my facial hair out and I fill it in, I pass pretty much in all situations. So just keep that in mind when I say this. So number one, I am not as affectionate with my son in public, and that is because I learned very quickly that society does not respond well from men showing normal everyday affection. I'm talking just hugging your kid. I found that people would look at me weird and stuff. It was very odd, especially because society pushes men to be more open, show your emotions and stuff like that. But then when they do, it's oh, that's creepy and offbeat. You know what I mean? I found that very bizarre because I never got treated or reactions like that. When I was regarded as a mother, but when society viewed me as a father, which I don't consider myself, but society sometimes does when they don't know my story, it just was unacceptable, and I always found that very odd, but I'm gonna act accordingly because obviously I don't want those reactions. Number two, I would never allow another person's child in my house for a sleepover or anything like that, and I would never allow my child to sleep over somebody else's house. And I know to some that might sound weird, but I'm not taking any chances. Listen, I grew up in rural New Hampshire, okay? I remember when I was growing up, there was this lesbian couple. They were literally so accepting to me. I had a girlfriend at the time, my first, real girlfriend, and they were just so kind, just so accepting and welcoming, and, very, I want to say professional isn't the word, but, they're very, nothing, they didn't do anything wrong. I remember the whole town ostracizing them because because they had contact with any kids or anything in the neighborhood, just contact, they were deemed as predators. They didn't do anything predatory. I will never give anyone the satisfaction of being able to do that to me and my family. Some people just have it out for people like me, especially in areas like I live in, and I'm not risking it. I'm not risking my family's safety. Most of my community is very accepting, but I'm not naive. There's still a risk. And because of that, I also don't want to risk him being mistreated somewhere else. At first, yes, I was. So what I did is I decided to positively, like, insert myself in situations where I could, like, show that my family is a positive, like, contribution to the community, and I was successful at it. I joined the PTA, I started volunteering where I could. My family, we have a farm, so I started donating eggs to like local churches. It doesn't matter, Catholic, Protestant, whatever. And on the little pamphlet we send in, I show a picture of us so they know, we're an alternative family. Even if they don't agree with us, they see that we can positively contribute to society just like anybody else. Since doing that, pretty much everybody knows me around here, and then TikTok added to it, sharing my journey on TikTok. So now I'm really not worried at all anymore. My son has been to 3 or 4 different schools just because the district has kind of placed him in different places. And at every single school, he's made friends pretty easily, so I'm not super concerned about it. They all look out for him. I'm appreciative. Does my son know that I'm trans? Yes, my son knows that I'm trans. And funny story, so when I first started transitioning, my son was very young. And I don't really discuss being trans a lot with my kid because this is just my opinion as a parent. It's not really something I want to burden him with. In this situation, it is an adult issue, so I just don't want to concern him with it. However, I did need to tell him to an extent because, like, I was going to go through all these changes. I was on hormones. I was getting surgery. He needed to know to an extent what was going on. So I actually, involved, his team of therapists, tons of professionals. I sought out the help of actually other autistic individuals themselves, even some autistic people who were trans themselves, and asked how do I go about this? And the consensus was just be honest. So that's what I did. One day I just sat my son down and it was actually in the car, and I was honest and I told him what was going on, and he said, cool, I want pizza. And we just went about our lives, and now we're here. A few years ago, my family booked a trip to Storyland. We thought Roman was gonna have a blast. I have memories at Storyland when I was a kid, and I was so excited for him to experience it. I thought just he would be in love with it. So, the entire time we're there, he is just completely unimpressed. Unimpressed. Absolutely unimpressed. By everything. By the scenery, by the rides, by the food, by the characters. He is unimpressed. Just unimpressed. Normally, I would think that, a blank expression would be him being, overstimulated or overwhelmed. I don't think that's what it is. I think he was just not interested. He just wasn't interested. So my family's like, well, whatever. Now we know, at least we tried, you know what I mean? It's still nice to see each other. And then we go on over to the motel that one of my family members got for us. My son walked into that motel, okay? Now this was the amusement park he was waiting for. He thought it was the best. It was just a room with 2 beds and a bathroom. That's all it was. He was thrilled. He walked in that door and he was like, ah! He was so excited about that damn motel. He stayed up, I think it was till 2 a.m. 2 a.m. partying. He loved that freaking motel. So yeah, that's the story about when my family booked and paid for a day at Storyland. But my son's favorite part of it was the motel. I think he wanted to go again just for that. The dog's name's not Fifi, it's Rosie.
Where's
Alright.
Fifi?
He's calling our dog Fifi. I knew that. The dog isn't dead, she's literally right there.
Are you reciting from a movie or something?
It's there! Fifi!
Welcome to my life. He shouldn't be. He's trying to steal everybody's username. So far, he's tried to steal 3 people's, and then he tried to make one as SpongeBob. I'm like, you're not the real SpongeBob SquarePants. You can't impersonate SpongeBob. And no, he made a username Space Jam Noodle, and now he just won't be happy with it. Roman, you cannot steal people's identities. Get over it. So there's a lot of stories that I could tell with this, but I'm going to go with this one. So my son was nonverbal for a long time. He actually didn't really speak at all until 5 years old, and even then it was very limited. So this was the first time my son was ever introduced to a communication device. So everybody was super excited and interested to see what he was going to say, when he could independently use it and communicate with us. I don't know, I thought he was going to say something profound or sweet that was just,
you know, that was just gonna, like, melt my heart. His first sentence he ever said on the communication device to me was, "I need to watch Dancing with the Stars." I mean, I was still proud of him, but it was unexpected.
Yesterday, I was in a school meeting for my son, like his evaluation review. In mid-meeting, I find out that my son is in the nurse's station because he keeps telling people he can't breathe and that he needs a bucket to puke in. They checked all his vitals. He was fine, you know, everything checked out fine. And I knew he was likely okay because he said the same thing to me at home, and he was fine here too. At any minor inconvenience during the day, my son could be convinced that he needs a doctor immediately, and he will make it known. But my son, this is typical for him trying to get out of school. He's just comfortable now, so it's coming up. But, you know, I'm getting a little concerned. I'm like, okay, he's saying he can't breathe, he's having stomach aches. What if he's having anxiety? If he physically is healthy and okay, I mean, what if he's having panic attacks? Until he got his first permaband today, my husband and I researched why was he permabanned. No reason, really. But we found a video he was watching in which a character is saying that he can't breathe and makes puking noises. Well played, but I win this round. Hi, thank you for your question. My son actually calls my husband just Eli. It's so funny, when he first met Eli, he would call him his entire name, like his full name, and that's all he would call him. But now he shortened it to Eli, but if he's mad at him, he calls him Susan, so. This is so funny, like, this comment really made me think. It made me realize my son has never referred to me as an actual pronoun. I mean, when he's pissed at me, he says, "Hey, lady." So maybe that's kind of a pronoun, I guess. But, like, I've never heard my son say she, her, he, his, or anything towards me. He knows I'm transgender, and I don't really, like, talk to him a lot about that stuff because I don't know, I just feel like he's a kid. Like, I don't think it's a huge deal, a huge concern of his, but I do know he knows I'm transgender, and I only know that because he was watching a YouTube video once, and they said something, like, mean about trans people, and he was pissed. You could tell he, like, exited out of it, like, that struck a chord, so that's how I know that he knows that I'm transgender. But yeah, I don't know, he mostly just calls me mom, mama, fat, hot dog arms. That's about it. Hi, thank you for your question. My son calls me mom, and it's actually not because, like, he remembered me before and I was his mom and then I transitioned. He actually calls me mom just because everybody else referred to me as, like, his mom, and he was nonverbal for a long time, so he just picked up on it. It bothered me at first that other people influenced how he addressed me, but now I'm kind of used to it. I kind of dig being an unconventional mom, you know what I mean? As far as with other people, I usually refer to myself as a parent, but I don't mind if people, like, call me a mom. I am a mom. Not an average mom, but I am a mom. It was a little awkward at first being called mom, especially, like, when I had a full beard and stuff in public, but I'm 31, 32 almost, and my son's a child, so I feel like it's my job to conform and make things comfortable as an adult. I would never really consider myself a father because he had an active father, but he passed away, so that's not my role. I don't feel comfortable with it. As far as other people, I just try to look at intent. No matter what people call me, if intent is good, then I'm good. So my husband's been preparing breakfast.
Where are the snow packs?
All your snack bags are right there.
In
They're right there. Where'd you put them? This is Frank's Red Hot sweet chili. Roman's, do you want to be in the video? Just move over. Get in the video. Get in the video. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to try this. Roman's about to go to school soon. He's been acting up. He keeps playing the Find My iPhone sound on this, so, because he wants to be in the video. I'm like, just be in the video. Yes, my son is very literal. Here's an example of just how literal he is. So one time, we developed, like, new rules around the house, and we kind of had, like, a little meeting with my son, and we went over the rules, and, you know, got his input if he thought they were good, and we asked him, "Hey, do you agree? Do you think these are good rules?" And he's like, "Yeah." We wanted him to sign his name on the rules just so we could be like, you know, it's something he agreed to. It was kind of like a formal thing, you know. So I say to him, I'm like, "Okay, if you agree, just sign with your name right here." And he's like, he was taking a real long time, and I was thinking, like, I mean, his name's not that long. Like, what's going on? I got the paper back, and he drew a sign with his name in it. There was, like, a stick and then a rectangle, and it said Roman in it. So for those who don't know, my son is autistic. He was nonverbal for a very long time. He's 8 years old, and he's like recently really taken off with talking, like really taken off with it. And I'm thrilled. Like, I am absolutely thrilled that he's starting, you know, to be really, really vocal. But some of the stuff he said, just the way he says it, I love him. I love the dude, but it's so creepy. First example, he learned the term violated from SpongeBob. I guess there's an episode where, like, Squidward says somebody violated some law or something like that. So now, I guess, when my son does something wrong, he views it as, like, I violated this rule. So earlier, you know, I talk about how I had to take his laptop away, and he said very loudly and matter-of-factly, "You violated me." I'm like, what? Because at first I was, like, concerned that he said that. Like, I was very concerned that that even came out of his mouth. I was like, what that? Where did you hear that? I was like, did he just say that? My husband's like, yeah, he just said that. Then I realized he got it from SpongeBob, and I realized he meant, like, I violated him as he violated a law, and I was holding him in violation. But, like, why say it? Can we not say it like that? Then he needs to wash his hair, and you know, my son doesn't like washing his hair. And I guess to make it more fun, he's decided to say that he's washing his brain. Which, I mean, weird, like, but rock on, creepy bro, like, I don't know. Well, since my son has trouble, like, sensory-wise, washing his hair and stuff like that, he was very relieved that it was over with. Very relieved. So much so that he announced, yes, we're brainwashed. Does it need to be that, though? Does it need to be that? And then literally what inspired me to do this video, because I was really on the fence if I wanted to do it, but we just had another one. My mom comes running out. She's like, hey, Roman's, like, saying he needs something from his room, and I can't understand what he's saying. I walk in his room. I love him, but he's such a creep. He says to me, can I have warmed hair, please? What it really is he doesn't like the coldness of his hair, I think, is like of a sensory thing. So he meant, like, can my hair be magically dry? Like, can you make it instantly dry? But the way he worded it was, can I have warmed hair, please? Oh my god. He has a way with words, doesn't he? You all know how, like, our son is a flight risk, right? Like, he darts, he runs away, we have to be very careful. Well, there was one day when Eli and I had to get farm chores done, and we had to go out together and get it done. Like, there was a lot to be done, and so we had to have Roman come with us. But at that point, I didn't have a GeoBit, and honestly, I don't know if I would have trusted it. So we had these wrist leash things that we had to use, right? So, like, I'm attached to Roman, and, like, we're trying to do farm chores, and Roman's just spinning around. So, like, we're all trying to, like, corral ducks, and Roman's spinning around. It was horrible. That was terrible. Oh, my God.
He loved it, though.
He loved it. He thought it was great. He thought it was like, oh, my God, I can spin around and get wrapped up in a cord. And meanwhile, we're trying to chase ducks and crap all